What are
Because fanaticism and ignorance.
They defined you.
What is the nature of human action?
Hello all you scholars, academics, students and drug addicts. How evil could a good person be? So essentially this is a question to do with the construct of morality. Not a philosopher in history hasn't dipped their fingers in the sticky pot of goo that is morality, but what is the most evil thing that you've ever done? It's a difficult question, I know. Now the ego inside of all of us makes us want to believe that we're pretty good people, generally. Most people, though, would struggle to come up with an act that they explicitly believe to be evil that they themselves have done. Because if they themselves have done it, they will usually find a way to qualify the action to themselves as being in the right. Well, here's a more interesting question. What's the most evil thing that anyone has ever done? The problem is that there's a deep and unknown scale of morality. There's no agreeable point of high or low on the scale. So you could answer that question with the most people who have suffered from a single event, or the most sinister thing that's been done to another human being, or even an action of unintentional consequences. But the question ultimately doesn't really have an answer. A commonly cited example is the Holocaust. 6 million people wiped out because of a culture that they were born into. It's pretty convincing. But were the Germans just naturally evil? I don't think so. How then do so many people who are decent and courteous in their everyday lives do so many terrible things? Well, Stanley Milgram asked that very question. He set up a fake experiment in which a participant had to hand out increasingly dangerous electric shocks to another participant each time he got the question wrong, although they weren't real shocks.
But if he makes a mistake, you were instructed to give him an electric shock, starting with 15 volts.
The voltage administered went up to a spanking 450 volts, which can be fatal, and 65% of participants went all the way to the end, even though the participant stopped responding, assumed unconscious. Whew. We are a terrible species. Milgram saw that the reason behind people handing out what they thought were death sentences to the frail old participant behind the screen was because of the authority behind it.
Let me out of here! Let me out!
Continue, please.
Let me out of here! My eyes bother me!
Go on.
Let me out!
Which means that the responsibility of the participant was removed entirely. The guy pressing the buttons wasn't really the one hurting the guy on the other side of the screen, it was the invigilator. He was in control. So action alone then can't be the full nature of evil. There's got to be other factors to consider. But in everyday life, you're a good person, right? Oh, me too, yeah. Well, what would force you then to do things that you would describe as evil? Abraham Maslow constructed a hierarchy of human needs which theorized exactly what we're motivated by. If you have physiological needs, you aren't going to be so motivated by, say, desires of esteem. So if you're desperately, starvingly hungry, you're not going to give a f*** about moral debates or gaining respect or even your own protection. You're just going to want to get your mouth on a 16-ounce steak with chips and a side salad. You know when you get grumpy because you haven't eaten in too long? That is a mild form of this. So something as simple as being hungry can temporarily alter your entire philosophy. So what this is saying is if you put you or me in the right situation, we're capable of all kinds of evil. It's a scary thing to know that we're not just capable of evil, but we're actually favourable to it in a number of situations. So we must be like a doomed species, right? Well, no. We have human rights and the justice system and charities which ensure that most people, at least in developed countries, have most, if not all, of these desires and needs fulfilled, which allows us to delve into self-actualization and do creative things and discuss things like philosophy. So how evil can a good person be? Very. But let's hope you'll never need to. Click the subscribe button to find out why I lay awake at night thinking about shit and why I scare people away on the bus.